The Stillwater Planning Commission meeting of April 2nd will now come to order. It will be the process this evening to call for items on the agenda. The commission will hear briefly from staff first, then the applicant and/or their representative, then open the public hearing and hear from those in favor and/or in opposition to the request. When you come to the podium, please clearly state your name and address for the record. And then before closing the public hearing, both staff, the applicant and/or their representative will be provided an opportunity to respond and provide additional information and answer questions. After all interested parties have spoken, the public hearing will be closed. We will hear closing remarks and alternatives from staff. The first item on the agenda this evening is a map amendment, and we will hear from staff.
All right. Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. Jacqueline Porter, City Planner, presenting on behalf of the Planning Department. The first item is a map amendment request by the Chamber of Commerce of Stillwater to rezone a portion of the property addressed as 1300 East Airport Road from public to industrial general to match the zoning with the rest of the property. The subject property is located southeast of the intersection of East Richmond Road and North Perkins Road. It is the full northeast quarter of Section 36. Yes, it is northwest, not northeast. Directionally challenged as a planner. Armstrong facility is located to the south of the subject property with Sunnybrook Christian Church, Parkview Estates, and National Standards located to the west. Here's a street view looking southeast at the intersection of East Richmond Road and North Perkins. The subject property is currently zoned public. A mix of agriculture and light industrial and commercial general are located to the north of the subject property, with mixed residential zonings and commercial shopping to the west, and industrial general is located to the east and south of the subject property. The future land use map was adopted with the 2030 comprehensive plan, which projects the desired use in the area at the time of the adoption of the plan, projects the use to be industrial and a portion at the intersection to be commercial. Staff has received 2 citizen inquiries regarding this map amendment. Brady Moore with the City Manager's Office is here to answer any questions. Are there any questions for staff?
Yes. Is this live?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it is. My question is, the reference is Airport Road, but the map shows it bounds on the north on Richmond, so that confused me.
Yes, so this property, it's a huge L. So where it's public and then it goes into IG and it kind of comes down, and then it has another street frontage off of Airport Road. So it's a large portion of it is also on Airport Road. They're on the south.
Okay, so the map isn't totally accurate in terms of the...
Yeah, so it's just highlighting the area in which is being the portion that is being requested to be rezoned, not the full parcel.
Okay.
So what was the original purpose of this being zoned public as opposed to the rest of the property being zoned general industrial?
I'll let Brady answer.
So it's CLO land, so Commissioner Land Office land. So part of it was already zoned industrial. I don't know why it was ever zoned public, except that the portion is now being requested to now match the surrounding parcel that is industrial.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like there's still a piece in this mile section that's public in the southeast corner, and that is to remain.
Yes, correct, because that is our energy center. So our Stillwater Energy Center sits there at that location.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Thank you. So at this time, we have an opportunity for the requesting agency to be able to come forward and offer any additional information.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Elaine Zanotti, President and CEO of the Stillwater Chamber of Commerce, 409 South Main. Thank you for taking a look at this evening. As I have put on this hat with the Chamber of Commerce and in looking at economic development as part of what the Chamber's responsibility and partnership is with the City of Stillwater, it made sense at this point, as we thoughtfully think about what we want to do with that corridor and with that land, to consistently make it all one zoning as we think about the types of businesses that we'd like to continue to be there at, even though Armstrong is empty at the moment. We want to think about what could go in there, as well as those types of development that can go in there and not have to worry about the zoning part of it. So that is the reason for tonight.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Tentatively, what type of projects are you looking for to site in this rezoned area?
I would say there's a combination of what's currently already there, kind of like the Armstrong facility, that light industrial. Well, the Chamber owns land south of that also where the hub is going to go, so an entertainment opportunity, but we don't want to miss what that whole corridor is about, and that's that mixture of the light industrial. So we do have some interest in those from other businesses that are doing kind of the light manufacturing, warehouse, that type of thing. So those are the types of things we're looking at locating there.
Has there been any interest at all of repurposing the Armstrong building?
There has been. There's been some interest.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone in the audience this evening that would like to speak in favor of this item.
I just have a question.
Okay. Are you speaking in favor, or you just have a question? Oh, okay. Why don't you go ahead and well, I'll tell you what. If there's no one else in the audience that would like to speak in favor, okay, then I'll ask if there's anyone that would like to speak in opposition. And if you want to come forward at this time and in opposition? Okay. All right, then we'll just open the floor to public question. So whichever one of you would like to come first and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much. I'm David Winslow, and this is my wife, Kathleen. We own a piece of property that connects to this. It's agricultural use, just to the northeast. And we were curious what this particular piece of property...
Could you speak more into the microphone, please?
We were curious what this piece of property was going to be used for. We have no objection at this time, but we're real curious because we do have agricultural property. And I know this land has been a questionable, lots happening out there. And so can anybody share what kind of, the question came from the board how it was going to be used, and we didn't understand.
The question before the planning commissioners tonight is whether this area should be zoned IG for the best interest of the city, not necessarily a specific business coming to this piece of property.
But I believe if I understand your question, I interpreted it slightly differently. What types of businesses would fall underneath this zoning? Is that
Yes, ma'am.
the question? Okay, I don't have that at the tip of my tongue, so I'm going to look to planning staff. But I'll tell you, just to keep us in order. Is that your only question?
That's my only question.
Okay.
Oh, one other. Was this the school land property?
Yes.
And so it can be changed zoning according to state statute?
That'd be the second
Correct.
question, so we're hearing yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I think what I'll do, Jackie, is I'll just wait till we're through with the questions and have you address them all at once.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
you
very
bet.
much.
You bet. Good evening.
How are you guys? I'm Crystal Shedrick Hayes, and I'm the Winslow's neighbor. And
Can you speak just a little bit more into the microphone? Yeah, I know it's like right there.
Hello. I'm Crystal Shedrick Hayes, and I am the Winslow's neighbor. I live directly across the street in a little 80-some-odd acre perfect piece of heaven. Never had to come down here before until we rezoned our land over 30 years ago. I've been here 60 years, so yeah, I'm that old. Anywho, I'm kind of like with the Winslows. We're very much into beef production. I'm a beef cow-calf producer as well as grandmother. But my only concern at this point is my water. I'm strictly water well. There has been some drilling on that land. I don't know if that's knowledge or not, but it is. I appreciate all the industry. I love industry, progress, innovation, that type of thing. That's how we grow. I also have different businesses in town and rely on that kind of thing. However, if any of you guys are ranchers, cow-calf producers, you know why we're here. Okay, our land is very sacred to us. These properties came to us in the land run. Our abstracts run very deep from the President of the United States, so it's very important that we maintain the innocence of our land. If my question is this, if there is absolutely nothing on the agenda, or what I'm saying is if there's nobody right now that says, I'm going to build right there, this industry, that's fine too. I know that when that comes, the rules and regulations of building will have certainly codes, you know, to enforce that. Is it Diana? Which one's Diana?
Diana Hood, she's the associate.
Yes, Diana. I spoke to Diana earlier. Unfortunately, on that neck of the woods, those codes probably, the tendency is they're not codes. I'm the only one out there, and nobody knows about the drilling of the land. Nobody knows what happens out there. I'm not very articulate right now, but I just want some reassurance, I guess, from the city that indeed you'll be on it. Indeed, you will stick to the standards or codes of building anything, you know, draining into the earth, that type of thing. And that's just kind of what I'm wanting to know. Like I said, I'm for industry, progress, whatever, as long as it doesn't interfere with my operation and my water well and my grandchildren. And I forgot to tell you, I was at 908 East Richmond Road. Sorry. Good.
Thank you. Yes. I'll ask if there's anyone else in the audience this evening that has a question. Seeing none, we'll have staff the opportunity to address the items that have been, the questions that have been brought before us.
Yes, okay. I'm going to make it really quick. I'll just go to our website. Where, there it is. Okay. Oh, you cannot see those. Let's. Can you? That's still not great. Okay. All right. So here's the list. As you can see, you can go on our website to look at this list. This is currently what's allowed as a permitted use by right in the general industrial district. And that's your construction, your food and beverages and tobacco products, manufacturing, a bunch of manufacturing really, and then your oil and gas industry services, as well as parking garages, and then your research and development and telecommunication towers. We have transportation activities and manufacturing, utilities, warehousing and storage, waste management services, wood production manufacturing, and then you have the specific use permits. If we ever get to these intensity of uses, you will also get another notification for the specific use permit. You will get notified, and it goes through the public hearing process for these items, and that's your chemical manufacturing, your medical marijuana growing and processing, your mining, and more manufacturing of your petroleum and coal, your higher intensity of uses of manufacturing. So then on to your questions about the drilling and everything. We are aware that there is a well there that was drilled. We know that when when the time comes for them to build, whoever goes has to build, they have to provide all the documentation needed, that it is capped, it's, everything that's done by, the state that needs to be done has to be provided. So that will be at the time of building permits, and all DEQ and city standards have to be met before we will approve the permits. I think that I answered everything.
So just a clarification question for myself. So when you're talking about the state, so would that be remediation by the Corporation Commission for the well that's capped?
Yes. Yeah, we'll ask for their documentations for that, and then we'll work with them until they provide that information. We've had it on a couple of other projects, so we kind of have a regular practice with them.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners? And then if you could just elaborate a little bit, Jackie, because I'm gonna assume that our audience members aren't in the design and construction industry and probably don't know how that all works. So at the time at which someone who's interested in the property would want to build one of the allowed structures or put in a business that's allowed, can you just explain how that process would work as far as coming to the city for building permit, looking at earth change permit, those sorts of things, so they kind of know how that would work?
Yes, so it's a multi-phase project. Usually we suggest for people, the chamber knows, so do a pre-application meeting. That way we can give an idea, provide them the information, what we think would fit perfectly for that property, and how to fit the zoning districts and our building standards on the engineering side. So we have the pre-application meeting, then they submit their building permits, and it has a list of requirements that includes drainage study and intensity of use, a lot of things that in our standards require. We check all of that. We go back and forth with the applicant until they meet all of our requirements and see that it is built correctly. During that stage, they also will put in an earth change permit, which will be reviewed by our stormwater management group to make sure drainage is done correctly, and all of the erosion during the process does not mitigation is the word that I'm trying to think of, to mitigate any runoff during their change permit and the building process. Then once that's complete, they have to have their building codes, their inspections all through the process of building, and then once they get to CO, they're going to have their grand opening, and then that's the process in a nutshell.
And any stormwater, so you mentioned the earth change permit, so during the construction process, there's mitigation procedures put up so that we don't have runoff in places we don't want to. But then also the building plans and improvements are reviewed so that there's not runoff of the property that exceeds what currently runs off as well. So for the life of whatever the project is as well.
And in those regulations, since it's industrial and there is residential, there is a requirement for screenings. So there will be landscaping as well. It's required. So.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Jackie. Did that answer your questions?
I think so.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, I'm just scared of robot operations.
Understood.
Well, if it's a growing facility, it needs a specific use permit, you'll get notified.
Thank you. As long as we're notified, we're good.
Yep.
Very good. All right. Okay, so at this time, we'll close the public hearing and ask staff to present findings and alternatives.
All right, so your findings tonight is the Land Development Code allows for rezoning of the land via map amendment. General industrial is adjacent to this location on the same parcel. And then the comprehensive plan calls for industrial and commercial uses at this property's location. So your alternatives are accept findings and recommend that the City Council approve the proposed map amendment as presented, or find that the map amendment is not an appropriate use for the property based upon the impact to the surrounding vicinity, and do not recommend that the City Council approve the map amendment, or find that additional information or discussion is needed prior to making a recommendation and table the request to a certain date.
Thank you.
I'll motion to accept the findings and recommend that the city council approve the proposed map amendment as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We shall now vote.
One no choice is somebody.
That'd be me.
Okay, Mr. Shanahan, can you verbally give me
Oh,
your vote?
You got
I think it went.
The motion passes 5-0.
Next item on the agenda is a text amendment, and we will hear from staff.
All right. Gotta bear with me because this is a long intro here. The next item is for the proposed text amendment to update City Code Chapter 23, Land Development Code, Article 5, Use Categories and Limitations, Division 1, generally, Section 2396, Definitions, by adding the term communication services. Also amending Chapter 23, Land Development Code, Article 6, Land Use Classifications, Division 5, Industrial Districts, Section 23-161, IG and General Industrial Districts by providing for communication services as a permitted use by right. Also amending Article 24, Table of Uses, Section 23-435, created by providing for communication services. Staff recommends the updates to the Chapter 23 Land Development Code as a routine maintenance to ensure the city code is current and with the best practices that would benefit the Stillwater community and attract new economic development opportunities. So the first section is located in the land use classification portion of the Land Development Code for the General Industrial Zoning District. So we kind of already seen it earlier, but this is it up here. And the proposed edit is to include communication services to this list. The proposed changes to be added for the communication services to the permitted use by right in the general industrial zoning districts. Triggers for a definition to be called out. So in Section 2396, definition section of the Land Development Code, the proposed definition for the communication services is businesses, facilities, or establishments which house or operate networked computers and data, transaction processing, equipments and support equipment, including without limitations, power and cooling equipment used to provide data and transaction processing services, including without limitations, all activities described by Category 518-210 of the North American Industrial Classification System as published in 2002, and all subsequent publications. Iterations. I told you this was going to be a long one. Provided also that this category shall include all facilities for ancillary offices, administrative, or utility service uses involved in or related to any services or activities described in this category, whether taking place in the same or prudent buildings, facilities, or structures included within limitations of electrical substations. All right, this one's not going to be as hard. It's pictures. Lastly, the Land Development Code, Section 23-435, has a table of use for each district. The proposed addition is for communication services will be added to this table. As previously mentioned, the text amendment will benefit the city of Stillwater's community and attract new economic development opportunities by ensuring the city code is current with the best practices. Are there any questions for staff after I butchered it?
So what exactly is construed or defined as communication services?
Yeah, I'll have Brady kind of help on this one.
So This would be, to answer your question and to be specific with the project that is being proposed, it would be a data center.
A what?
Data center campus. Yep.
Is it just there was nowhere for that to fit in the current? Okay.
Yes. Sometimes, like when we get daily, I mean, it's a kind of a daily routine for our planners when someone comes with a project and we look at our code and we always want our code to answer everything, but sometimes it's that gray area where it's like, I think it could fall under this, or we could put it under this, or no, we need to do an SUP to make sure that it fits under this with more clarity. This is a way that we can update our code and make sure that we give that clarity for communication services and separate itself a little bit from like Bitcoining. So this is more for communication services.
Well, I read this and I wondered if Bitcoining would fit in here as well.
No, it's my opinion it wouldn't, but we would like to. We considered giving even more clarity, like to update our code and put Bitcoining as a SUP, as a required SUP, to just even give that more clarity to the difference to communication services. However, we feel like we could bring that to you at a later time.
Okay.
Yep.
I just have a comment observation to add is oftentimes with codes, our society and our culture creates new businesses, new opportunities. Industry and innovation have been mentioned this evening, and lots of times the codes are follow behind that curve of where we see industry going. So that's kind of how I view this, is we're trying to keep up with current practices.
That's correct.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience this evening that would like to speak in favor of this item. Seeing none, I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience this evening that would like to speak in opposition of this item. Seeing none, I'll ask if there are any general questions, and if you'd come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Crystal Hayes, 908 East Richmond Road. I'm kind of working it backwards. I think that this IG change is probably what they're talking about when they're talking about rezoning as well. I just want to know, is the communication center that does that include the ginormous tower that could not go up on other places just around there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So I think you're drawing reference to the communications tower that we proposed near Parkview Estates last year, and that project got moved and is now being relocated, so it's not moving forward at all. No. It's moving actually to our public works facility on down here, near downtown, near Hoyt Grove Park. It's right there off of 8th Street.
It's 8th, okay.
Yeah, our 8th
Just
Street.
off of like Perkins and...
That's correct.
Eighth.
It's where our public works facilities in their backyard. It's in their yard where they store all their equipment. We're putting the radio tower there. That is, nope.
That was enough.
Yep. That's right.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience this evening that has a general question? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask staff to present findings and alternatives.
All right, it's short and sweet. Text amendment to the Land Development Code is needed to further update these sections of code. So your alternatives: accept findings and recommend that the City Council approve the proposed text amendment as presented, or find that the text amendment is not appropriate for the definitions with identified amendments and recommend the City Council approve the request. Find that additional information or discussion is needed prior to making a recommendation and table the request to a future Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you.
I'll motion to accept findings and recommend that we approve the text amendment as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. We shall now vote. Motion passes 5-0. We'll
Thank
move
you.
to the next item on the agenda, which is the meeting summary for review and possible action. There are, it's two, right? So there are two, and that is the regular meeting minutes for March 5th and also the regular meeting minutes for March 26th. The chair would entertain approval of both as submitted if there are no corrections or additions.
Can I motion both at the same time? I'll motion to approve both sets of minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We shall now vote.
Sorry, I listed them separately, but we'll consider them the same.
Do I need to abstain since I wasn't here, not vote?
Correct.
You can. Mhm.
Correct what?
Yes, you can abstain.
You can abstain. Motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. Next item on the agenda is miscellaneous items from staff, planning commissioners, or the city attorney for discussion and possible action. The item that we do have listed is that the next regular meeting is April the 16th. Seeing no other items come up, last item on the agenda is adjournment, and the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We shall now vote.
Mr. Prater, second.
11.
Sorry, sometimes he's so quiet, I couldn't hear, I apologize.
My bad. I was close, but he got it.
Motion passes 5-0. We now stand adjourned.